Heathrow was the busiest airport in Europe in the first quarter of this year, but the high traffic volume did not put the company back into the black. Our correspondent Li Juanhua has been following the story.
Yes, Jamie, Heathrow started the year with quite a strong first quarter, but it has not returned to profit, with adjusted losses of over $170 million in the first 3 months of the year. And looking at passenger numbers, the airport handled nearly 17 million passengers in the first quarter of the year. That is more than 74% higher than the same period last year, when COVID travel restrictions were still in place across much of the world. And Q1 airports revenues came in at slightly over $1 billion. This is about 58% higher than the same period in 2022, which was just over $640 million. When looking at Heathrow's annual earnings over the past 4 years, we can see its yearly revenue took a deep dive in 2020 and 2021, which was around $1.5 billion. However, last year, it saw its revenue jump to $3.6 billion, almost as high as in 2019. So, does this mean the aviation sector is recovering to pre-pandemic levels? Paul Charles is Chief Executive of travel consultancy, the PC agency.
It's a very attractive airport for us as consumers to fly out of. And of course, the airlines themselves want to base themselves at Heathrow. It's still the UK's major hub airport. It enables a lot of connecting traffic. So despite a cost of living crisis, it's still able to generate lots of revenues, plenty of turnover, because it's a very attractively located airport within the UK.
And Paul, despite the improvement in passenger numbers, the airport has reported adjusted losses of around $170 million in the first quarter. How so?
Heathrow is still adjusting from that pandemic period through to post-pandemic. So it's seeing the passenger numbers return quite healthily now. It's back up to nearly 98% of what it had before the pandemic. But of course, the first quarter period is generally a quieter period in the airport's diary. Its busiest period is the summer, the UK's summer, and that's when it will generate most of its profits. But things are getting better despite the losses. It's seeing more passengers come through its doors and choose to fly from Heathrow. It's also still generating plenty of money from the high passenger charges levied by the UK regulators, and those passenger charges will be coming down, but it's still making the most of them. And of course, don't forget, Heathrow makes money from the shops that are within the airport itself. And with more passengers coming back, more people are buying things in the shops before they fly from Heathrow.
And China has recently reopened its border back in January, and now for passengers who are going to China, they no longer need COVID tests. So how do you think that the reopening of the border of China could help with the recovery of the aviation sector in the UK?
It's really good that China has reopened its borders and is enabling the Chinese to travel outbound again, as well, of course, as many tourists coming back into China. And if you look at the flight schedules, the flights planned for later this year, it's clear that the airlines are voting with their feet. They're putting back the schedules, they're putting back the flights that they had pre-COVID back into the schedules, and you can expect a lot of tourists both out of China and into China to be traveling later this year.
Like the airports will become really hectic in summer. Now back to you.
Yeah, we hope so. Yeah, Joanna, thank you very much indeed for that.